1,000 people? Everyone, welcome to today's session on generics. projects. My name is Samir Agrawal. I'm based in Frankfurt. And a very quick introduction about myself. I am CEO of management consultancy firm CSA Healthcare GmbH and board member of Synthetica, a Swiss company. Prior roles I had were one of them was head of strategy, portfolio management, and M&A, including biosimilars at Fresenius Kabi. First of all, thank you to Miro Hornak, founder of Y Summits, for giving me an opportunity to moderate today's session. I would like to warmly welcome the four speakers who you see on the screen, as well as all the participants. We have a very tight agenda, 30 minutes. It's like a tester for a very wide subject, an important subject. Ideally, I would like to introduce each of the speakers for about half an hour each, but we have a total of half an hour, so I requested them to give few lines. So I will read those lines as introduction, and I will request all of you to please also feel free to visit their LinkedIn profiles and get amazed by their background. So first of all, in alphabetical order, we have Anna Gevalda, who is founder and managing partner of Enion, a consultancy company specialized in portfolio management of generics, both APIs and finished dosage forms and value-added medicines. Her technical background and her expertise in portfolio management and market research has given her a deep knowledge of generics and value-added medicines industry. So welcome, Anna.
Thank you very much.
Pleasure to interact with you again. Then I switched to Bjarni Behrings, who is president of Hetero Europe. He holds a Master of Pharmacy from Iceland and an MBA, and possesses over 20 years of experience within the pharma industry. He started his career with AstraZeneca and moved early on into the generic business of Actavis. And since 2010, he has led Hetero Europe, the European affiliate of the global pharma company Hetero Drugs, in which he manages the European business. So welcome, Bjarni, and once again, also my pleasure to interact with you once again.
Thank you, Samir. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, everyone, and Bjarni. And now I have pleasure in introducing Stephanie. Stephanie has more than 20 years experience in leading development programs of generic products for small molecule products, as well as primarily in big global markets. And I think in all continents in several geographic companies. Currently, she is at Sandoz, focusing on programs to build up pipeline for Asia Pacific, mainly in China and Japan, besides in Russia. Previously, she has also built a global PMO function in Sandoz for a small molecule development. And she likes to set up systematic project strategies to provide generic products to as many markets and patients as possible. So as you see in the profiles of the speakers, her full name is Stephanie Ahmad Mal, and she's presently global project manager at Sandoz in Germany. Now it's my pleasure to introduce Stephanie. Welcome. Sorry, I did
welcome. Yeah,
forgot to mention that. And now it's my pleasure to introduce Varada Bapat, or if I may say Dr. Varada Bapat, who is Associate Vice President, Project Management at Wokhart Research Center in Aurangabad, India. She is a PhD in pharmaceutics and has been working in pharma industry for over 27 years. She started her career as a research scientist, but changed the track after about 12 years to become a project and portfolio manager. She has experience in managing generics as well as NCE research projects. So welcome, Varada.
Thank you very much.
So with that, we start today's discussion. So how Miro and Thomas have explained to me that I will start with some questions which I'll request the speakers to talk about. I also welcome all the participants to today's webinar, and please feel free to send your questions in the chat, and I will ensure that some of those questions are picked up and then we ask the panel members or speakers. So maybe I start with a very broad topic, and maybe I start with you, Stephanie. I think you are closest to me in Germany, so I start with you, if you don't mind.
Good.
In Munich area. So it's a very broad one, which is how to find, evaluate, and plan for generic market entry opportunities.
Yeah, that's
I
really.
know we can talk about it for a full day, but then if you may.
So yeah, let's figure out the, let's say, key points, and of course the one is the market. Yeah, so which market do I expect? And in order to see this early on, I need to screen the market of the originators early on. So check which phase 3 studies are they doing, or what does the investment report say. So in order to be there really early and to see what's the market potential. So is the market a good one for such a product, for the generic, for us as generic industry? The other part is, of course, what is the timing? So when can I expect the generic entry of the competition, which means the LOE, yeah, so the loss of exclusivity. So these two major parts need to be evaluated, that I can see, is this a market for me? Do I want to go into this product? And the LOE, of course, is then also something we can talk days about it, but the key pillars are the patent landscape. So which basic patents do I have? Do I have any patent extensions which might block me from the market? Yeah, that's the one part, but the other part is data exclusivity. So when can I submit my products for approval with reference to the originator? And then, of course, also market exclusivity. So these are the key pillars. And another aspect, which is always super important, my supply chain. So where do I get the API from, or do I need to manufacture it by myself? Where will I manufacture the product? So in order to have a day one launch, I need a patent-free manufacturing site, which can be quite a challenge to find one. So these are the key pillars in order to select the products early on and then to have enough time to develop it.
Well, very interesting. Thank you, Stephanie, for so very nicely summarizing the key topics. And maybe I jump to Anna at this stage, if you would like to add something to that.
Yeah, well, there is something that during my experience now, I have seen that a lot of companies does not have very clear the portfolio strategy, the company portfolio strategy. So I think that before starting to analyze products or trying to find in databases opportunities and things like this, I think it's very important to establish a roadmap. I like to sit with companies and understand which are their weaknesses or the strengths of the company, regarding capabilities or which growth do they expect to achieve in the next years, how are going to achieve this type of growth with more risky project versus low risk, or if they want to develop long-term projects versus short-term, because some of the products that we are considering, if we start checking very early, is that maybe there are projects for 15 years from now. So it's quite complex to know what's going to be the market at that time. So I think this exercise is not often done by companies, and there are a lot of things that has to be taken into account. Also, I think the companies should do an analysis of which projects they have succeed more. Why? Because maybe they have some type of advantage regarding costs, or maybe also which strengths they have, if they have high potent capabilities or not, or which type of differentiation they can achieve. So I think also maybe some companies are focused on a therapeutic area, and it's more easy to try to find opportunities in that way. So I think this is the first step that has to be very clear, to know exactly what are you going to look for. And then you have to start looking for data, patents, loss of exclusivities, market forecasts, etc. And then once you have this information, understand that the products that you have selected complies with the roadmap that you have established. So this in my opinion, the process that I like to follow, no, with my customers, no, to have very clear what we are looking for. No, it's
Gracias.
not easy.
Yeah, gracias. I think both of you are have highlighted the importance of a planned approach and having to look at some specific areas in portfolio management. So let me quickly come to you, Varada, and if you can quickly, in short, add, if you want to add something to that before I move to the next question.
Most of the points are covered by Stephanie and Anna. I would like to add just a few more. Especially in US market now, US FDA publishes periodically list of medicines for the generic alternatives are not available. So that could be a good start. And so also the paid databases that we all know. But another thing is the opportunity is defined by need of the company. How do I define that an opportunity is good for me? Apart from my capability and my ability to stay invested, there is also a risk appetite. So,
or in other words, it's also it should match our corporate strategy,
company strategy.
Yeah.
So for some companies, an opportunity of say less than 5 million yearly revenue may not be an attractive opportunity, but for startups, probably they can look at those products where there is very less competition because the total market is less.
I think fair enough. Very, very important point. Thank you, Varada, for that. And being a gentleman, Bearni has been very patient and he has let the ladies talk first. So I now come to you, Bearni, and I have a very important question for you. And this is what is always asked, that especially those companies which are new to the generic business. I know most of the participants today are experts in generic business. And so why do generic first entrants enjoy long-term market dominance? What are your views on that?
That's a very good question. Maybe first, if I may start, being late to the market is not necessarily a failure. For some companies, it's a strategy. And what they achieve with being late is that they have less uncertainty on 3 key risks related to the launch. That is, what is the competition level, what is the price erosion, and how is the penetration rate of this generic. They have that uncertainty solved out. So being late is okay for risk-averse players in a price-driven market, so long as they have access to a very price competitive supply. And also if this product entry is optional to their business strategy and not an important or a vital part of their strategy. But we can all agree that being first is more important for most companies, and it's a vital point for the success of the product. But on that note, it's not the same as saying being first and the same as saying being alone. You can't be first, but there are very often many companies that launch on day one. So you see 10 companies claiming they're first with a product in the market. So what you want to do is you want to launch ahead of other generic competition. So the key success you achieve is that the patients taking the drugs, ultimately, they are very reluctant to substitution. So you get your product into a use by a patient, and when more competition comes into the market, subject to the doctor being able to choose what they prescribe, subject to the patients being able to choose what they get from the pharmacy, they always push the doctors, they push the pharmacy to give them what they currently have, because they've already gone through the pain of substituting once. They are stable, they want to maintain with the product. Of course, you get also a better position within the supply chain. So your product is in the warehouse of the wholesalers, it's in the shelves of the pharmacy. There is no space for second, third, fourth generic in that pharmacy at that time of a new entry coming in. You maintain very often a higher prices because the next guy to come in cannot push the product into the supply chain unless with prices, that is, if it's a price-driven market. Furthermore, you generate an awareness from a prescribing doctors on your product being available. So you go from being only originators available to there's an originator or the less expensive alternative. But the doctors, they don't know from the time there are 5 to 7 generic players in the market. They only are aware when there is a generic available. So summarizing this, the long-term market dominance you mostly achieve in countries where there is a lesser price sensitivity, that is the promotional markets, and countries where the substitution rate is low, so the market you generate, you keep. And very importantly, for products with chronic indication, where the patients are on this product for years, you want them, when they switch initially from the originator to the generic, you want them to get yours, because subject to them being well monitored on that drug, they stay on the drug for a long time. And that is a position you want to have.
Thank you, Bernie. I think, first of all, you highlighted a very important point of last man standing. That is also a strategy for generic business. Yeah. So late entrant doesn't mean that's not a good strategy, as long as price positioning is right. And secondly, I think you highlighted a very important point we often overlook is switching over from the brand to generic. And if we are the first ones as a generic player, then likely to be still be preferred by the patient. So thank you for that. That was a very interesting perspective. So jump to the next question very quickly. And my question now is, what are the key factors influencing the generic entry decision? I think we partly covered it in your first part of, in our first question, especially Stephanie and Anna mentioned, talked about that, as well as Varda. But if I may ask you, Stephanie, once again, anything further to add there?
Yeah, I think it's really important to see what's the market, also my expectations. And I mean, Björn, I fully come along with you, yeah, especially if I talk about the TPC, so my manufacturing costs, how competitive will I be then also compared to my market? So will it be a tender market? How many competitors are there? What's the long time perspective with regards to lifecycle management? I mean, all these pieces are important at the end, because usually I also do not want just to enter the market for 3 months and then leave it again because I see, oh, it didn't work out. So then it would not be the business case we want to have, right? So it's really the market on the one side and the prices on the other side, including with the timing. Just still, I prefer to be first in market and of course, continue also last out. That's the other part. So if I reach that both, then I'm successful.
Okay. Bjarni, anything to add from your side further to that?
I think Stephanie answered the question beautifully. And she mentioned all the key topics of competition, prices, penetration rate, the market share you're going to expect, etc. it all summarizes down to two things, which is the entry profitable? So what will my expected volume or the value be, and the growth expectation for the product? And secondly, more importantly, is this a strategic fit for the company's current and future business? And there are challenges, there are uncertainties. You cannot project the future very accurately. If it's a strategic fit, you just have to make it work. Yeah. If it doesn't work, you have to solve that problem where it is. Is your COGS too high? Do you need more promotion on the product? Do you need a faster supply chain? If it's a strategic fit, that's the key thing, and you just have to make it work.
Yeah, well said, Bjarni. And so I now come back to you, Varada, and how to find low competitive generic opportunities. You partly touched upon that in the beginning, but if you can elaborate a little bit on that.
Actually, going forward, the market is going to be of complex generics. It's not going to be only small molecules, or where it would require a lot of characterization. I think that would be the major key area. And since the technology is getting more and more complex, definitely there would be very few people who would be able to cope up that technical challenge. If you build your expertise around a platform technology, say inhalation or say complex injectables, then probably you are working in a niche area where it is defined by your area of expertise.
What you're saying is that in generics, find a niche for yourself, right? That is important, because perhaps because of technologies which are involved and economies of scales and others, right?
Yes.
Come to Barcelona now. Anna, anything to add there?
Well, yes, I agree with Varada completely. Having a technology platform always have a lot to find low competition. It's very difficult to find opportunities with low competition. As you know, at the end, if they are good opportunities, someone will find a way to develop them. So technology gives you some advantage, but it's not always a stopper for other companies. So, well, I think at the end, it's important also to understand, for example, your therapeutic area. Maybe in that you find some niche products in that area because the number of patients are not so big for big companies to develop that project. Or, well, and I think at the end you need the other strategy that you can develop is to try to differentiate a little bit of the standard generic, maybe giving some small, well, we would go to more the value-added medicines type of products, but maybe you can find a small differentiation that can give you some advantage, and maybe you won't get a very high premium price, but maybe you can achieve a good market share if at the end the patient has an advantage with your product. No, maybe it's only a change in formulation or dosage form or whatever that helps the patient to take that medicine. So I think it's not easy to find low competition opportunities, but you have to you can obtain them or find them with different strategies, as we have said. So
okay, thanks very much, Anna, for that. And so I request the participants, if they have any questions. First of all, thanks to Abhijit Kelkar for your question. So Abhijit asks, how do you manage portfolio across geographies to meet the day one launch in regulated or as well as not so regulated markets? That is portfolio management based on, is the portfolio management based on regionally, nationally, or globally? So I think two questions in this. One is how do we manage portfolio management or portfolio process in different geographies? And then what would be your advice? Do we use a regional approach, a national approach, or a global approach? So maybe I start with you, Stephanie, on that. Any comments?
I mean, that's a question I can talk one day about. Yeah. So, but generally for the market, the point is medical schools are different in different markets. So there, I personally recommend more a regional approach, because you cannot sell the same product in the same way in all the countries around the globe. That's not possible. And the other side is, how do I approach this strategy? So how can I set up a global project strategy in the real sense? So covering markets, the big markets like US, Canada, European markets, Russia, China, Japan. I mean, that's a big thing. But also here, it's important to see if I want to bring a product into all these markets, and if the originator is in all these markets represented or is going to be represented, yeah, then I can plan the same way as I do it for an individual market. I have specialities in the different markets I have to regard, especially trade press may be a challenge, local manufacturing may be a challenge, but otherwise the logic, the underlying logic is similar. Meaning I need to regard my patent expiries in these countries. I need to regard all my data exclusivities, so the regulatory protection phases, and all these limiting dates, seeing my first generic entry date per market, and then I can stagger my development approach accordingly. Manufacturing may be an interesting challenge, yeah, depending on the markets. Some markets need local manufacturing, other can go with global sources. But in general, if I know upfront which markets should participate, it's possible to set up global strategies. Of course, it's more complex than developing for just one market, because you have to cover all these different requirements from the different markets globally. But usually there are some synergies at least around the globe.
Yeah. Varda, would you like to add something to that?
Yes, I would like to add, like, whenever you are selecting a portfolio, it is usually a mix of local, regional and global markets. There could be few products which you develop for the global market, and in that case probably you will have to go in a phase-wise manner. Like, even the same product may not be bioequivalent to the brand leader in different markets. So
R&D might have different formulation in different geographies as well.
Yes, even the presentations are different. Just to begin with, even the packaging configurations are different, the stability requirements are different. So you can select definitely a few markets and which you specially develop for the global market, but largely they will be for regional market.
Okay, fantastic. So now we are coming to the end of today's very quick webinar. So we have about 2 minutes or 1 minute. So any closing comments from any of you? Would you, let's start with Bjarni. Would you like to add something which we did not cover very quickly?
Thanks for the time, and it's an interesting conference. I just want to highlight that now we're touching base on the surface of the topics, and we have conferences coming up next year. There is one in Munich where we will speak more about the topic. I will particularly at that time go deeper into the generic market entry. That's 25th, 26th of February. And we have another similar conference coming up 26th and 27th of May in Mumbai, where I have the pleasure of joining and speak more about how to predict the multi-level competition and price erosion in the generic market. So hopefully I see many of you there.
So I'm sorry, Anna and Stephanie, I think I can't come to you now because it's already 3 o'clock. But I would like to thank all four of you for very valuable comments and ideas, and to all the participants as well as Vice Summits. Thank you. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar on biosimilar projects. We have about 30 minutes to talk about this very, very important topic. So it's in a way a teaser for perhaps a longer conference. First of all, my thanks to Miro Hornak, founder of Y Summits, for giving me this opportunity to moderate this session. I have also the pleasure of introducing three of our panel members. Ideally, I would introduce each one of them for 30 minutes each, but time is short, so I will say a few lines each, what they have told me to talk about them. I will encourage you also to please look at their LinkedIn profiles and get amazed by their background. So first of all, in alphabetical order. So first, Dinesh. So Dr. Dinesh Kundu is CEO and co-founder of QBD Biosciences Private Limited India. QBD is a company focused on registering innovative biotech and plasma products. He's a medical doctor by training from Army, an MBA from Indian School of Business, as well as London Business School. He has around 15 years of experience in biotechnology, plasma, and healthcare delivery, with biotech business strategy and program management as his core expertise. Welcome, Dinesh.
Thank you very much.
Now it's my pleasure to introduce Edric Engert, who is Managing Director of Abraxiolas Consultancy, where he leads a team in areas such as a strategy, portfolio selection, business development, M&A, primary market research, as well as forecasting. He also is involved in scenario modeling, excuse me, excuse me, policy, sales, and marketing strategies, and building of commercialization infrastructure. Just give me a second. Yeah, too much of a spicy food, I guess. His focus is healthcare broadly, but particularly industries of focus, including biosimilars, novel biologics, and generics. Previously, Edric led biosimilars unit at Teva, led key global functions at Sandoz, and was a healthcare specialist at McKinsey and Company. He received his MBA from Wharton School of Business and his bachelor's in mathematics from MIT. So welcome, Edric. It's a pleasure to interact with you. And now I have pleasure in introducing Clemen Spaninger. Clemen is Senior Director, Head of Project Management Office and Global Program Lead at Fresenius Kabi, based in Switzerland. As I just mentioned, he is heading the project management office. He has been in biosimilars field for more than 10 years and is involved in several biosimilars being developed. I know, Clemen, it's a very short introduction which you asked me to give, but there is much more than that. Welcome, Clemen.
Thank you.
Very quick word about myself. My name, as you know, is Samir Agrawal. I head a management consultancy company called CSA Healthcare GmbH, based in Frankfurt. I am a board member of a pharmaceutical company called Synthetica SA in Switzerland, and a startup called Novitet Pharma Inc. based in US. In my previous role, I was global head of strategy, portfolio management, and biosimilars at Fresenius Kabi. I would like to welcome all the participants who have joined today's webinar. We have a 30-minute session. I will start with some questions to the panelists. The webinar attendees are requested to send their questions in chat, and it will be my pleasure to take up these questions as soon as possible. So maybe I start with some broad questions, and pardon me that these are very broad, so feel free to speak in whichever way you like. So maybe I start with you, Edric. Very broad and important question: how to find, evaluate, and plan for biosimilars market opportunities? I mean, when I look at biosimilars, I see a lot of therapy areas where biosimilars are there, autoimmune disease, oncology, this and that. And then biosimilars mean different things to different people. Some people, I mean, of course, there are different kinds of products, cytokines or monoclonal antibodies and this and that. So what's your opinion, how to find, evaluate, and plan for biosimilars market opportunities?
Wow, that is an incredibly good question, but as you mentioned, also a very open and broad one. So I'll probably just try to illuminate a couple of key factors as I've seen them in my past and through my current work as well. And then I think the rest of us can build on that, because there's a lot to be said there. We can focus on the companies and we can focus on the products. If I were to first focus on the companies, I think one thing that is of paramount importance is not just to jump into biosimilars. You sort of have to take a step back and go up to a slightly higher altitude and decide first, what are my financial objectives? What are my strategic objectives? And once we have those objectives very clearly defined in a measurable way, not just aspirations that are very subjective and qualitative, it's then necessary for us as a firm to decide what's the strategy to actually achieve those objectives. Once that's actually been built in an implementable and robust way, that's when we can start talking about portfolio selection and in particular products. So I'll spend just a minute then talking about products, and then I'll hand it back to you, please, Samir. so much to say, but I think one of the things that's important is that in biosimilars, it's of incredible relevance to not follow the model that we saw so often in the past in the generics industry, where everybody just went after the blockbuster. Here's a blockbuster, we have to go after it. We really should be thinking about products that from a alignment with internal capabilities and also from a competitive perspective lead to the most significant returns. So while I'm very interested in tracking things like adalimumab and how that's going to fare in 2023, particularly in the US, and how Keytruda or pembrolizumab continues to grow with indications, et cetera, I'm also very careful to look at other products. I've personally done risk-adjusted forecasts for products like Eylea that ended up being significantly higher than the other big blockbusters because there was more limited competition. I'll cut myself off there already, even though I have probably another 5,000 words to offer just in the interest of time.
No, but I think you have touched upon a very, very important topic. So it's not important to only run after big products. It's more important to carefully select the portfolio and marry that with the corporate strategy and perhaps the bandwidth the company has with respect to investments, etc. So maybe I come to you, Clement. Anything to add over there?
No, actually, I fully agree. And I think that a lot of companies are now changing the strategy of going from these few $billion products into more niche sectors, depending on, of course, their capabilities, whether they're already in autoimmune or they're in respiratory field or whatsoever. However, I think that also, of course, the main driver before was that the costs were so high, and of course still are. But I guess in the near future, when this paradigm shift will also happen, maybe even skipping the phase 3 trial, then even these smaller molecules that are, let's say, around 1 billion or even below would actually start to become attractive for a biosimilar developer. Because right now, of course, that threshold is quite high to get your return on investment. And therefore, also in our portfolio selection, a lot of molecules then disappear from the list, mainly because, of course, the sales is not there. But I think that if in near future this will also change, then I think that the number of targets that will be out there, besides these really huge blockbusters, will be enormous.
Absolutely. I think very well said. So, Dinesh, maybe I take up a sort of related question to this, and you can also feel free to also talk about this topic which we just discussed. But maybe I ask you that what are the key factors influencing the biosimilars entry decision? I think we partly touch upon it, and it's a sort of an interlinked question. But so your thoughts on that, please.
Sure, Sami. So I think Edric and Clement already touched upon this part that, how the biosimilar entry decision is being influenced. So when I look at the kind of companies which are entering or have entered biosimilars, so they fall in categories of either the big pharmas or the companies which are like small, they're typical biotech companies, or they're absolutely new companies. So the kind of company and the kind of area they're operating in, that is one of the major factors. So I'll just if it is a pharma company, pure pharma company, which is trying to enter biosimilars, so they focus on this run-of-the-mill blockbuster that I get high volume and low cost and high volume kind of products. If it is a niche biotech company, they're looking at, okay, let me look at some niche specific products and identify the geographies. So it's not only what your internal therapy area, your internal corporate strategy, but also the territory which you want to attack. That makes a lot of difference on whether you want to enter biosimilars or which territory you want to enter biosimilars. Everybody targeting US, but how many of them are successful in US? So companies are coming with very niche strategies that, okay, let me attack just rest of the world market. BioCAD is one of a very one of good examples of this. They are not thinking to attack $16 billion US market. They're thinking, let me just attack $500 million rest of the world market. And they've been entering 50 plus markets in last couple of years. So it's which areas you want to attack, which therapy areas complement you, and whether you want to go with yourself or partnership. So I think these three factors weigh a lot on when companies try to enter biosimilars. So I'll hand it back to you to build on Clement and Edric to build on this point.
Yeah, so Edric,
Yeah,
anything to add to that?
Yeah, Dinesh, I think that was very well said. And it also points out that everything at every altitude must be considered. We start with corporate strategy, but we go to portfolio strategy, and then we end up even to need to consider commercialization strategy and how incredibly different these things are actually by market. And Samir, your question is about market entry. We've been answering the question right now, I think rightfully, with a view towards portfolio selection and strategy. But let's also assume for a moment that we've already selected the products. They're already in development. They're nearing submission and approval and launch date. Do you still enter the market or not? That is also a fundamental decision that needs to be addressed efficiently and effectively by all of us. And the things that come into play there are oftentimes such things as market entry. We were assuming we were going to be in the market on this date with a competitive field being X. What if the competitive field becomes Y? What if the market order of entry is different? What if the life cycle management strategy of the originator is different than what we had originally surmised, and it greatly dilutes the value? We have to be mindful of the fact that we should never be thinking of these things in terms of sunk costs. We should always be thinking about where are we now? What's the NPV risk adjusted from this position going forward? And here's a key point. Don't ever just think about one product alone. You have to think about all the other products in your pipeline, if you're a biosimilar only company, or also in the rest of your business units. Perhaps there's an LCM opportunity or a true novel biologic. You have to answer the question, where's the best place for me to now place my bet? And that can change very dynamically over the lifetime of the molecule.
Yeah, well said. I think Clement, if you can add to that. But I think besides adding to this, if you can also touch upon a little bit, what are some of the risks to be mindful of, and that the company should consider while deciding on the portfolio or other biosimilars portfolio.
Sure, and continuing from what it was said, and I fully agree when it comes to assessing the right risks and so forth. I think that now perfect example, of course, is etanercept and adalimumab in US. I mean, we were all convinced, especially in Sandoz being the fourth runner, that we will be able to launch adalimumab and some other molecules earlier, but then all the patents started to pop up and so forth. And now I think that looking at oncology sector, especially the PD-1s, PD-L1s, I mean, this will become an IP nightmare. So I think that the IP lawyers will make a lot of money on us. But this is again something where these launch windows are not so clear anymore as they used to be. For the previous molecules, you had this quite specific LOE, and you could really calculate your MPV. You could design the portfolio. Now what we're seeing is that, of course, everybody learned on AbbVie case and doing settlements, meaning that also your launch date is not so solid anymore and can be quite fluidic. And we're not talking about months, we can talk about years. Yeah. So all this is then needed also when you're doing this portfolio selection and looking what are the risks for your next molecule. So I think that besides, and here I fully agree from before, that not only looking at these big blockbusters that for sure will have multiple layers of IP protection, but looking at molecules that are a bit low in sales and attacking those, because this will actually give you the money flow that you need in order to put on the shelf maybe the blockbuster PD-1 molecule that we are already seeing will for sure not launch at the initial LOE that everybody's communicating.
Fantastic. I think very well said. And I am keeping an eye on the questions from the participants. I see a couple of questions. They are more related to generic business and not specifically on biosimilars, but yeah, they are relevant in that sense. Biosimilars are also generics, but for biologics. So I will come to those questions later. But in the meanwhile, maybe I touch upon a slightly tangentially related subject. And so we have simple, it's perhaps not a good idea to call simple biosimilars, but we have biosimilars. And then there's a lot of talk of hybrid model where biosimilars plus some kind of novelty. So Dinesh, I think this is an interesting topic with your kind of background. What would you like to say on that, and how to manage? Are there any opportunities there, or what are the risks there?
Like Clement said, this IP scenario of these big blockbuster molecules is far from ideal, and also the kind of investment which you have to make for the comparative trials of this PD1, PDL1s. So it makes a lot of sense to look at somewhere where your money is spent on research and clinical on your product, rather than 30-40% of it going on buying Humira or buying your Avastin. So I think this cost itself for a molecule like Avastin biosimilar or a Keytruda biosimilar can run in like multi-million dollars, 10, 20, $30 million over course of 5-6 years. So this is a big factor which is weighing on the mind of the biosimilar companies which are targeting blockbuster molecules. So they are thinking that this research work in laboratories is being encouraged by government a lot in various countries. So why don't I take my risk over that, which can be titrated risk, step by step. I'm taking risk. I'm not putting all my money over there, for that biosimilar clinical trial. So with that mindset, I had this chance to interact with a lot of companies in China, Korea, Taiwan, and also now happening a lot in India as well. So I feel this strategy makes a lot of sense, where you target specific molecules in biosimilars, which will give you the head start which you need, maybe the revenue which you need if you do the portfolio selection very well and commercialize them in time. And then for your company, the growth, the brand name, and as well as chances of big deals, they come with novel molecules. So I see this strategy making a lot of sense in future for the small companies and mid-sized companies.
Yeah.
Rick, please.
Sorry, Dinesh, I'm in absolute agreement. And I can tell you, I even agree with the larger companies, it being very beneficial to them. I've personally done this for clients for very small companies where we're looking at portfolio selection and then very detailed sales and marketing strategies for a specific biosimilar. And then we append to that market research, which allows us to be able to predict what the unmet medical need is for a potential novel biologic, such as a long-acting version of that product or some other functionality that's added to the bio-better or novel biologic. When you meld these two things together, it makes you know the space that much more. It makes you that much more successful in your commercialization. And it, of course, builds more brand equity. That's an example of a small company that I did it with. But even with the large companies, I think it makes sense. There was a very large company where I had to create the biosimilar strategy and the novel biologic strategy. And I was showing them that the key is to actually integrate the two. Because even though the regulatory pathways are very different, think about the people involved. Think even about the property, plant, and equipment. They're incredibly similar. So what we're doing again is balancing risks and returns. If I look at the probability of success for a biosimilar, it's somewhere between 45 and 50% if you throw in all possible risk factors from start to finish. If I look at a novel biologic, it's 18%. So one, you can manage risk more by having a mix of biosimilars and novel biologics, and you can manage capacity utilization. Think about all your reactors. Think about your people. You can sort of reverse engineer from what you think is your best guess as to the patent limiting date when what needs to be done. And it's a fantastic way to attract, recruit, and retain, frankly, some of the best talent in the market. Integrate the two. So I'm a very big proponent of that.
I think well said. And I can just imagine that a novel biologic, perhaps in all likelihood, will take longer to launch. And by the time, you can't keep the plants idle, so you can utilize the plants or as well as other assets like people and all the investments in launching biosimilars. So that also makes a lot of commercial sense. So well said, Edric. I completely agree. Clement, anything to add on that front, on this question, this topic?
No, actually, I fully agree, and I think that there are several examples out there, yeah, where companies have this hybrid model, and I think that it's more and more pronounced. The one model that I'm also seeing, and I think that one of the biggest player, which is I think Celltrion, and they're actually making a different hybrid model where they're now trying to think how to push the biosimilars into the next level, like with Inflixi, subcut option, and so forth. So I think that this will be the next battlefield because there's a lot of biosimilar players. There will be a huge competition, especially India, China, coming from there. So we will not be able to be different only on that level, but there will be needed something else. And like AbbVie did with DCF on Humira, as I said, what Celltrion did with infliximab, I think this will be the next, change in paradigm, thinking how to develop a biosimilar.
Yeah, Clement, I think that's a great point. And mentioning Celltrion is also of particular interest because I personally think of them as a little bit of a gold standard as far as development and manufacturing is concerned.
Yes.
Rituximab and trastuzumab were the two products that I pulled in when I was at Teva there leading the business unit. But I can tell you that they're doing something else. It's the hybrid model, exactly as you mentioned. The sub-Q is a perfect example of this, but it's also the forward integration. And Samir, if and when the opportunity arises, we could spend an entire day talking about the market dynamics that are changing, that are allowing contract developers and manufacturers to rethink how can I most effectively forward integrate so that they have more control over the destiny and so that they also can get more of the value capture for themselves. But that's an incredibly long conversation. Sorry.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and you were saying something, Dinesh? Sorry.
No, I was just saying the Celltrion a fantastic example. Just I was agreeing to Edric.
Okay. So I think we are coming 3 to 5 minutes left. So, but I see a couple of questions in the chat box from the participants. Thanks very much for that. One of the questions, two of the participants, Roberto Franco and Thomas Rendek, and Sergey Sagbo have asked that with the current COVID situation, are you aware of any projects of generic drugs that will come, or is there any knowledge about drug patent suspensions in the world which enabled early arrival of generics on the market due to COVID pandemic? I think I would like to quickly mention here is my understanding is many of the companies focused quite a lot on topics related to COVID, whether they were vaccine developments for some companies or development of emergency use medicines, which were used more during COVID time. So they perhaps slowed down in development of some of the generics or biosimilars because they reassigned their resources with focus on COVID in few cases, but not in all cases. But other than that, I haven't heard anything that this will add to new products, but I leave this question to the panel to add their thoughts on that.
Samir, I have something to add here.
Yeah.
Okay. So see, one very interesting phenomena has happened because of COVID situation. So if we look at biotech in general, so FDA has been really skeptical about approving any biotech product or approving biosimilar in specific. But now they have realized that, situation like this, if we see when COVID came, the number of approvals which FDA gave for the testing kits, the RT-PCRs, ELISAs, emergency use authorizations, similarly for Europe as well, other agencies as well. So I think they probably indirectly realized that, their potential of approving the medicines much faster than they're doing right now. So there might be indirect benefit to the players who work in the biotech field or niche in this complex generic field, that this regulations, as FDA is thinking as well with multiple meetings, that there might be more considerate this timelines in terms of approval. So this might be an indirect benefit.
Okay.
Sorry, Dinesh, I was going to say that's a very good point. And I think it's interesting because when we think of COVID, it was, of course, this unexpected, horrific shock to all our systems here in 2020. But there are sometimes these silver linings. Dinesh, I think you outlined one of them beautifully. Another one is that if we think of telehealth, it is something that's been quasi in existence since, wow, literally like 15 or 20 years. And we never really saw it taking off, at least in the United States. Because of COVID, that has actually started to ramp up exponentially. And suddenly teledetailing now is ramping up as well, which again, completely changes the lens through which we can evaluate opportunities and investments required to go from inception of product all the way to successful launch and adoption. So there are.
I think it's also very relevant to biosimilars because we have to explain the products, and people were really wondering to what extent of investment they will have to do, especially the generic companies, to explain biosimilar products. Anything to add from you on this topic, Clement? Because we are coming to the end. So maybe
no, I think that
closing comments.
all was already said, so I have really nothing to add.
Any other comment from the three panel members before we close?
More than 30 minutes next time, please. Wow, that's a big topic.
Okay.
Full day conference, Amir.
Yeah. I think that's the plan for Y Summit. This was just like, consider this as one of your favorite whiskeys or the favorite perfume. This was the tester, so that you can then think about the full bottle later on. So anyway, thank you all three of you, the panel members and all the participants on the webinar. Also thanks to Y Summit for organizing this. I wish all of you safe time ahead. Thank you very much. Have a great day.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much,
Bye-bye.
everyone. Edric, Clement, pleasure. Thank you, Samir.
Bye.
Thomas, are we a go?
Yeah, you can start.
Hi, good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the PPM webinar focused on best PPM tools for 2021. My name is Monica Sharma, and I'm going to be moderating this discussion. On behalf of Vice Summits, I would like to welcome you all to this webinar session. Before we go around introducing the panelists that we have, I just want to basically talk a little bit about the focus for today. So one of the questions that all of the companies deal with today is how to stay competitive in a fast-moving global market. It's becoming a challenge increasingly for the pharmaceutical and biotech companies. To stay in pace with that, companies are also increasingly implementing new or better project portfolio management systems, resource planning systems, risk and decision analysis enabling tools to better manage their pipeline projects from ideation to launch. We all realize successful implementation of these systems involves teamwork and is dependent upon several factors, including the structure of the organization, size of the pipeline, etc. To help us navigate through some of those questions, we are lucky to have a seasoned list of panelists that cumulatively brings us over 70 years of experience in the PPM tools and collaboration solutions space. So without further ado, I would like to introduce our panelists for today, starting with Andrew. Andrew Combs is a senior analyst at Captario. He is responsible at Captario for building and managing relationships with customers and supporting their use of Captario Sum, the company's SaaS cloud-based modeling simulation and analytics platform. We also have Phil Wolf, who is a senior VP at PDware. Phil has over 30 years of experience in the PPM and enterprise tools management space. At PDware, Phil is responsible for strategic planning, new business acquisition, as well as management of the sales and marketing infrastructure for the PDware enterprise and SaaS on-demand product lines. So welcome, Phil.
Thank you.
We also have Angela Berner, who is VP of Customer Experience at Clarison. Angela has 21 years of experience in the project portfolio management enterprise work collaboration space. She spent 13 years at Oracle in product management and then solutions and engineering focused on the Oracle PPM suite. And for the last few years, she is the VP of Customer Experience at Clarison, where she manages both the pre and post-sales teams that work with customers to see and recognize the value of Clarison as a cloud-based enterprise collaborative and work management solution. Last but not the least, we also have Vartika Parekh joining us from Switzerland. She is with Microsoft. She is a technology strategist who has helped customers across the globe to transform and digitize their PPM solution space. She is currently working as sales and strategy lead for Microsoft and has several years of experience managing projects and portfolios. She works with customers to build a new culture of work and empower their workforce with the right digital tools to encourage productivity, engagement, and collaboration. She believes that AI, with its unique ability to monitor patterns, is a capable assistant to project managers and is a game changer in the work and project management sphere. She is here to talk about what is new from Microsoft and how they see their tools changing to model this. So with that, let's dive into the questions for today. And I'm going to start with Andrew. Andrew, could you please share a little bit about your company's offering and how the tools you offer can help minimize inefficiencies and enable better decision-making?
Yeah, first and foremost, thanks much for the invitation to be here. Appreciate that. So Captario is first and foremost a technology company, and we're geared towards strategic decision-making in the life sciences space. And as you mentioned, our product Captario Sum, it's a SaaS cloud-based modeling, simulation, and analytics platform that helps make data-driven decisions from holistic and dynamic end-to-end models. And so we do this both at the project level and the portfolio level. And we only do this, so we solely focus in the life sciences space. So we work with large companies with complex portfolios, but also small pharma and biotech companies that are really looking to optimize a development plan for a single asset. And we support this decision-making at an enterprise scale. So this is not just for project and portfolio managers, but more broadly throughout the organization. So for our customers, we strive to change decision-making at the governance level as well. So now with Captoria Sum, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead, please. I'm sorry.
Yeah, just a couple more quick points. So again, we do this for both single product or asset companies, or even an entire portfolio. So we can model and analyze the most complex in development and commercialization plans. Our platform is very, very flexible, both in terms of inputs and outputs. So we want to create customized assumptions for our customers around kind of any development or commercialization activities and decision points. And really what this allows us to do is quickly and easily highlight uncertainty, risks, and outcomes of any strategic decision a pharma company is looking to make. So really the whole aim of Captoria Sum is to highlight this opportunity, not only inputs, but in the outputs as well. And we do this using a proprietary Monte Carlo simulation platform for fast simulations. So this allows our users to test out scenarios in a matter of seconds, not minutes or even overnight. And this is something we want to kind of evolve over time. So we actively seek the input of our customers to help improve this product and make sure it's the best that it can be for the pharma space.
Fabulous. Thank you, Andrew, for sharing that. If I can go to Angela next.
Sure. Sorry, I had to find the mute button. So sorry about that. With Clarizen, we're a full stack PPM solution. We've been around from the beginning as a SaaS solution, and we really enable companies to manage all aspects of work. Similar to what Andrew said, projects, programs, portfolios, but we really meet the needs of multiple use cases in industries. And the reason that we do that is we have what we see as the most scalable and flexible tool where you really can configure Clarizen to match your business process. So whether you're in product development or in marketing or in services, you can tailor the tool to meet your business process, and we don't force any customers to follow a specific PPM process, because we know that every business and every organization has their unique needs. And really the benefit then is, as your question around minimizing efficiencies, is that we can help you automate your business process so that it's a lot easier. A lot of challenge we have with project managers is that, they're not trained necessarily in project management, and they don't want to have to figure out how to use a tool. And so how can we make it simple for your users to know what they need to do? How do we automate steps for them? And things like streamlining the intake and prioritization of projects, how they get approved, who has to approve them, automating those steps so that it's not something that you have to think about, helping them prioritize the right work, optimizing your resources, making sure that they're fully utilized, or at least not sitting idle, and making sure that people are also not overbooked, which is really important these days. You don't have that visibility of where people are and what work they're doing. And so giving you that visibility across all types of work, whether it's waterfall, agile, or hybrid of all of that, is really the flexibility of Clarizen and how we consolidate all that information in a single solution.
That's great, Angela. Yeah, good points. I think scalability and matching to the client needs is a requirement that perhaps a lot of clients desire. So great to hear about that. Next, we'll go to Vartika.
Yeah, thanks. So what I would like to say is, from Microsoft perspective, we were offering Project Online since quite a long time, saying that, it's a very established solution. We totally based on what, at that time was like, the PMI was taken as from Project Management Institute as the Bible for everything. And as we evolved, the people and the need for project managers actually increased so much that everybody had project management as a part of their jobs. And as we saw the market evolving and, people who were not really trained in project management coming into the industry and trying to do project management as a part of their side tasks, we saw quite a lot of evolution around. So, there is, we kind of measured that, and we said, okay, there is a year-to-year increase of 33% in the need of project managers. Recently, what we did was, we have this whole kind of, funnel channel where we're listening to our customers. The feedback loop is what we call it. We kept listening to the customers, and last year what we introduced was basically facing all these challenges that the customers have, which I would say, well, the first is distracted workflows. When I come to work today, I need to know what I need to do. And where do I go? If I'm working with 5 different projects dealt in 5 different ways, I have to go to 5 different tools. Well, this was one of the problems which disconnected systems were bringing in, and distracted workforce was one of the challenges that the industry had, right? So what we did was we came out with a very intuitive, easy to use, flexible solution, which is now released since a year, and customers are really happy about, which is Project for the Web, which sits on our CDS platform. So, the CDS, or, Dataverse, which we call it now, is basically a platform where you can actually automate all your processes. So, all the customers, sitting on the Power Platform, they are well versed to do it themselves. So, today you as a project manager can actually go in and create a flow, or what we call Power Automate flow, to be able to create a business process on your own. It's as easy. It's what we call the Power Platform is our native development platform, which is pretty much AI driven, and it brings in, because it has a lot of API connectors, going a little bit into technology, it connects to any other application that you want to connect. And with together the whole, informal work management space, we say, well, it is very, very AI driven today. And yesterday, when I remember myself as a project manager, I did a lot of tasks which were redundant, and I don't want to be doing it today. I went to 10 different places to be able to just manage a project. Today, from our solutions side, you just need to go to Teams and you will be able to manage your entire solution. So looking at how we've evolved from the time when we started in the project business, it's quite a change. And project managers today can actually build their own, without needing any development, build their own automated processes, can have apps as they wish, and can develop it themselves. So it's like the entire platform is a native development platform. So for citizen developers like you and me, who do not have prior coding experience.
Thanks, Vartika, for that. Last but not the least, Phil.
Thank you. That's a very interesting panel, because I think you have different vendors coming at things from different angles. PPM has been around for about 18 years, and we sort of started into this space with sort of a premise after working in PPM for a long time, that really the best way to attack the business problem of managing work is to manage resources first. So we set resource management as a foundation for work management, financial management, risk management. We actually call the product resource first. That's how committed we are to the whole process. And so it's always resource management, resource management, resource management, get that right, and then we can deal with some of the other things. And we've had some good success, and also in pharma and medical devices, companies like, Medtronic, BD, newer ones like Eli Lilly. So we've definitely had a chance to work in this space for a long time and understand some of the needs and business processes. In current times with the pandemic, there's never been more of a need for people-based planning. You have less visibility into what everybody's doing. Everybody's remote. And in fact, every worker is a lot more independent than they've ever been. So they have the ability to switch companies because they're sitting in their home office. So what's the difference who they work for? They could switch jobs within a company very easily. And they can also choose their work in a lot of cases because there's less oversight. So sometimes they pick the right things to work on, and sometimes they pick the wrong things to work on. All this comes down to good fundamental resource planning. And so we look to enable individuals to manage how they want to manage in terms of deliverables, but at the same time set some rigor in terms of how organizations manage things like capacity planning, all the rest of functional resource planning, as well as financial planning around those people. And I think if companies can do a good job of managing their staff, then all the other things come along with it. So that's a PDWare approach.
Yeah, really good points, Phil. And I think all of you guys talked about the different solutions that your respective companies offer. So the scalability, the agility, faster decision-making. But then with that, Phil, as you were alluding to the choices that people have now, my next question would be then, when is the right time for a company to start considering a PPM solution? And with all the options available in the market, four of you guys are speaking to what your companies have to offer. How do companies decide what is the right solution for them? So I will start with Angela this time.
So in our opinion, it's, now's the time to start. You definitely don't want to start earlier than later. Lay the foundation for your growing projects and portfolio, so that you have what I say is the foundation and the metadata and the architecture to scale as you grow. And so by setting that up, you have the right information that you're capturing on projects, and you'll be able to do analysis and reporting on that data as you aggregate more and more. And I think from, starting and looking at a PPM tool, it also helps from a training perspective, so that you get your users and the change management happening earlier, so that they are familiar with the tool and the methodology. And you can also evolve with the tool, right? So with Clarizen, we really talk about adaptability. So we know businesses change, processes change, and, as people start doing things and they find that you need to streamline something, change something, let the tool evolve with you. And so that users feel like they're part of the process of, involving that, in the PPM tool. And it minimizes the resistance that you're going to get, because any tool is only going to be successful if your users are using it, and seeing the value out of it. So, we work in an agile fashion when we deploy, just like in the product you could do to agile. And that way you see value quickly and iterations, so that it's not something that's like a big bang and forced top down. It's something that your users are slowly getting buy-in, and enabling that. And I think the other thing is, there is nothing too small. No project is too small, because there's a lot of things you can do that will show them value, like automated status reports, alerts. Show them the value of using a PPM tool quickly. That the value that they get quickly, so that they are going to be continue to add more projects over time.
Thanks, Angela. No, very well said. Andrew?
Yeah, I would 100% echo what Angela was mentioning. Early and often is always a good mantra here. I mean, even small companies, to her point as well, are always going to benefit from kind of identifying, understanding, being able to mitigate risks and uncertainty, and kind of the business processes they have. And particularly in our space, in the life sciences and pharma space, where small companies are 100% invested in a single product, it's going to be even more important to kind of understand kind of what the optimal pathways are. So that's where a PPM solution, in our instance, like Captario, can really help. And I think particularly with COVID, it's become even more apparent to kind of identify these risks, understand what their potential outcomes are, and more importantly, how to mitigate those risks.
Right. Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned COVID, because nobody had anticipated how that would impact the day-to-day. So yeah, thank you for alluding to that. I'll go to Phil next. Phil?
Yeah, so we're a little bit different. We really don't want to work with an organization until they have about 50 people or so, in the project set. And usually it's across multiple projects. Feel like there's some good tools out there. Vartika talked about a couple of them. Microsoft Project, a lot of people have. Teams is now out there. Jira for agile type environments. A lot of times you get a mix of project and Jira. And then of course Excel, which is probably the greatest tool ever written, because you can do anything with it. And just about everybody starts with Excel. And so for a lot of the things that we preach, you can actually get away with using Excel up until a certain point. And for every company, it's a little different. Sometimes we've heard from people around 25, 30 people, but usually the magic number is around 50, especially today. And once you hit 50, now you have different kinds of issues, right? You have people managing people. You start to not know exactly what everybody's capable of. And so now you have different types of staff management issues. You have to start thinking about hiring and transition and churn and all those kind of things. So I would say the right time to start for a PDware solution is around 50 people. And at that point, you have multiple projects happening at the same time, possibly even multiple departments working.
Okay, thank you. Vartika?
I'll have a little different stand on it. I would say I'd like to start with some statistics, which came out because we keep doing all these surveys across in the PPM world. So to tell 62% of the projects meet their goals, which is quite surprising as to why. And 43% of the projects that we surveyed, actually the companies reported, they do not align to project strategy. So there is a huge scope of improvement, as you can see there. Specifically for pharma, you want to be preventive, you want to be collaborative, you want to be focused, you want to be data-driven and transparent. I would say, well, start when you feel that you have processes which are ready for it. The reason why I say it's today is not the day. Technology has advanced so much. Today is not the day where you have to adopt your business processes based on the tool that you're using. You can have your business processes implemented the way you like in your tool. And we're able to do that. And our solutions are able to do that. And that's why I say, well, small or big, start when you feel that you have processes which can be implemented into a PPM solution, because you don't want to have a PPM solution to just have it there. You want to be using it. You want it to bring a process benefit to it. You want to get some efficiencies out of it. And the best point is that you want people to be collaborative and work across it. So, working on projects in Excel is totally different thing than working on projects on a PPM tool, where you want to actually get the inside depth across the projects that are running, where you actually wanting to see what's happening from the very task level to the portfolio level. And you need a certain level of organizational maturity, of course, and you need to understand which processes would be most important for you at the end of the day, and what do you want to bring into the tool. Of course, starting as fast as possible is one of the good strategies, but also knowing what you want to implement and how are you going to implement, because we come across a lot of customers who say, hey, we want a PPM tool, but they have no idea around where they want to go with it, what are the level of maturity they want to reach with it. And today we are able to do everything. So as I say, it's okay to start whenever.
Thank you so much. I guess all of you guys talked about different approaches to project management, and whether we are in the project management field or portfolio management side of things, there is emergence of hybrid project management. People look at Kanban, Scrum, Jira, Lean. To what extent do you think these approaches can be beneficial, and how well are they compatible with your solution? And I'll start with Phil this time.
Yeah, so, my message here isn't all that different than the one before, which is that, all of these are good approaches, and each one meets the needs of certain organizations. We've seen, when a company has, for instance, software and hardware groups in their manufacturing, they might have a little of both. They might have some waterfall work and some agile work in the software side, sometimes even vice versa. We see this in pharma a lot, where the clinical groups possibly work differently than the long-term research groups. So I think this really harps back to having a good foundation that you can work with. And this is why, again, we bring it back to resource planning. If you can understand your priorities, supply and demand, and deploy your staff properly within individual groups, you could work with whatever you want. And so we've taken it to different levels with different organizations. We do a lot of integration with Microsoft Project and Jira. That's the big one, the big ones that are out there right now. But any of the other platforms are fine. Let the workers work independently, which makes, in the way that makes sense for their groups, and then bring it together with a good, solid organizational foundation of resource and financial management. And that's really a good approach for most companies.
Thanks, Phil. Andrew?
Yeah, I think all these tools and approaches are good for creating frameworks to support really the development and improvement of a project or a product. So I don't think there's a hard and fast answer here as to are these necessary or necessarily beneficial. I think it's kind of a case by case. I can say from Captario Sum's perspective, we used a few of these different approaches, and it helped us to create frameworks for our product. But I'd hark back to one of Angela's earlier points. We want to be flexible and be able to customize our product to our customers' needs. So again, these approaches create their frameworks to be able to do that, but it's really kind of acting on kind of what our customers need and being flexible and nimble to adapt to those needs.
Thank you. Makes sense. Yeah, I think flexibility in the world we operate in is key, and scalability is what all of you guys bring to the table with the different tools you have. So with that, I'll go to Vartika.
Yeah, so I feel that, you know, it's very important for people to work the way they like. So this is also our mantra at Microsoft: teams work the way they want and organizations get the results they need. So basically, when you are, you know, working in an agile team, you using, just to say, Azure DevOps, or you're working in a waterfall team using project, it should be possible to bring all those back into the portfolio level, is what we say. You know, it should be possible to, you know, see the agile project in the same way in dollars as we see the waterfall project. And that is where a lot of challenges our customers face, to see the agile methodologies mapping into dollars, because the CFOs are always reporting their financial reports in dollars, right? So bringing this all together is what we are doing here at Microsoft now, that we're trying to bring in the projects, no matter from where they're running, based on the Power Platform, all to the top level, so that, you know, the executives get the result that they're looking at with the help of Power BI and Power Platform, that, you know, they get focused on what they're looking for. And teams can, irrespective, in a bigger organization, work in different ways. Because if you would see the pharma, well, the clinical research would like to do waterfall projects because they can't do that many HR projects. There are a lot of, you know, roadblockers across. They have to follow a certain process, where the IT team would like to do agile. So, you know, how do you bring all of this together? And we've been very successful doing that for a lot of pharma companies. We kind of saw that there was need around that, and it really works well for the customers. So irrespective of what approach they're taking, today the tools are capable of actually bringing that all together.
Thank you. Angela?
Yes, and I think what everyone's been saying is definitely true. With Clarizen, we integrate with Jira as well as Azure DevOps. So a lot of customers use those already for Agile, but we also support Agile natively in Clarizen. So if teams are already operating and want to use, you know, Scrum, Kanban boards, and operate in sprints, and are fully ready and executing in that fashion, we give them that flexibility. And the benefit of being in a PPM solution that already is kind of built on your traditional project management of waterfall type projects is that your portfolio managers have that visibility across, right? And they can see the roll up of all the work from your Agile Scrum teams as well as your waterfall projects. You can even have a project that is a combination of both. Some phases could be Agile and others are not. And at the management level, whether you're a portfolio manager, resource manager, you know, executive, you don't necessarily care how it's being executed. You just want the visibility on the status, right? You want to see where people are deployed. You want to see the financial impact of it. And that's really the benefit of having the integration or in a single tool.
Yeah, no, very well said. In the end, the leadership wants to see the impact and the output. So it's equally important to have that be visible and communicated to the right stakeholders. I know we are drawing towards the end of the 30 minutes that we had. So I want to take this opportunity to see if audience online has any questions. Please feel free to type those in the chat pod that's open. And while I look for questions, last question that I have, and if speakers can add their closing remarks along with taking a stab at it. From an innovation perspective, what trends do you see on the horizon? And I'll start with Andrew.
Yeah, sorry about that delay with the mute button. But yeah, I think from, at least in the pharma space, really what we're seeing is, and again, COVID has put this front and center. Scenario planning is becoming more and more important. We want to see kind of what the options are, what those impacts are on our plans, what the impacts are on timing, costs, and revenue. And again, COVID brought that to the forefront, particularly in the pharmaceutical industry. So we're seeing kind of stakeholders and customers that we're working with want to see the impact of their kind of strategic decisions and options in real time. So let's map out the uncertainty with all of our plans, understand what the risks are, and being able to run kind of quick scenarios to test different scenarios, really to understand, again, kind of what those risks are and what's the best way to mitigate those risks going forward. So again, I think kind of the flexibility and the ability to kind of model uncertainty in a very quick fashion is kind of what we've seen a lot from our customers' perspectives.
Yeah, thank you, Andrew. Angela?
Yeah, I totally agree. We've seen it with the customers that we have. When COVID happened, the adoption of our resource planning tools and being able to see where people are working is really the trend. And it's been the trend, I think, for years as far as needing, visibility, which is why customers come to us all looking for PPM and resource management tools. I think from an innovation perspective, it's really about leveraging that data. And now that customers have all their projects and resources in a tool, we're looking at how can we use machine learning, how can we use that data to grow and help be more predictive in knowing where the bottlenecks are, where the delays in the projects are going to happen based on how you've been performing in the past, how the team that you've been working with has performed in the past, and how do we best deploy and match resources for you, like do smart resourcing where we're proactively suggesting people to be the best match based on past performance.
Thank you. Vartika?
Yes, so I go along with the data-driven decision-making power with that, the other colleague said here, that basically what is very important, is getting more and more important, is that we make decisions based on the data and not just on our intuition. But the tools need to be intuitive. So this is the kind of way forward where we say, well, I would like to use a Power Virtual Agent to be telling me, hey, your project is running late. And you might want to engage more resources. This is how your exact project health looks like. It's kind of a predictive way of managing projects, where I don't want to be filling hundreds of Excel sheets to be able to get a report in the end. It should be totally seamless to the user at the user level. So the scalability aspect of it is also getting more and more important, because today organizations are not deploying a solution at a very small level. They want it to be deployed at the enterprise level. They want to be managing the resources at the enterprise level. They want to be collaborating at the enterprise level. So these restrictions across the borders, they're changing today. And also post-COVID, we've seen the customers, they need more and more collaboration within that, right? So they need to have this physical experience in the virtual world. And that's what we are saying, and that's what we're doing at Microsoft today. We're trying to build a kind of a virtual experience, which is pretty near to the physical experience. And also in terms of resource management, predictive suggestions and, predictive based on historic data. How exactly are you going to go ahead with a project? And will a project be successful or not? That kind of data is what we are bringing in picture today. So that's going to play quite a critical role there.
Thank you. Phil?
Yeah, just to follow up, I think there's some good points made. Andrew brought up scenario planning. We're seeing a lot of that. People being able to work sort of offline collaboratively on a chunk of the portfolio, get that right, and then reestablish that in production. That's a big part of the trends that we're seeing there. We take a different approach than Angela talked about, but similar in concept, where we have something called optimization, which recommends how you should staff initiatives based on priority, supply, and demand. We've been doing that for a while, but the new technologies, predictive behavior analysis, things like that, allow us to take that a lot further these days. And the third one I'll bring up that we're spending a lot of time on, it's not necessarily a new one, but systems integration is becoming more and more important. Having an organization with different kinds of systems, people do not want to enter data more than once. And so we're doing a ton of HR integration, trying to help people to get that capacity laid out properly so that they have a good foundation for decision making. A lot of ERP integration with SAP and Oracle. Most of the pharma organizations and medical device companies use one or the other in terms of management. Some of the data that we need exists in those systems, and some of the data that we have, they need. And so bringing that data back and forth seamlessly is a big part of the deployments these days. And so at least with our business, that's a huge trend.
Thank you. We have one question from the audience. Thomas in the audience wants to know, I guess you guys already touched upon this a little bit. Is there any AI implemented in your products already? Phil, did you want to start with that, and others, please feel free to add in.
Well, it's an evolving process, AI. I would say that using our algorithms to assess the data that we have and looking ahead. Everything about, the PDWare system is about forecasting and looking ahead. So different so much than understanding the trends, it's kind of extrapolating forward based on priority, supply, and demand. What's the staffing going to look like, and how can you appropriately put people on projects to bring things in on time, on budget, all that kind of stuff. And so that's where we're focused on the AI type behavior. I would say that we're partially there with our vision, but there's a lot more to go, and I think we'll see a lot in 2021.
Thank you. Others, did you guys want to add any comments?
We do from Microsoft side have Cortana, which kind of helps around in the task management space across. So, you can get the active, proactive suggestions from Cortana to tell you, hey, you promised something, did you want to add? The future expansion to it is, would you like to add it to the project? So, if you actually commit to a task or, send somebody an email saying, hey, I'll do this, it actively asks you, do you want to add it as a task in your, task in Teams or Planner or project? So basically you can actually map back to it, and you can actually, cast your emails in a way that you can get the task associated to the projects directly from your email. So, you don't have kind of segregated work across the field, and you can maintain a kind of, sync between those. So we do have Cortana there enabled. Of course, Power Virtual Agents from our Power Platform side is also included within the Power Platform offering within the project operations. So, you can actually ask an AI certain kind of questions, and you can get answers to it. It will analyze your data and tell you where you are at the point of time.
Angela, did you want to add anything?
Yeah, AI is an area we're also investing in. Right now, the most that we have is in our bot, which is integrated with Teams and Slack. So it suggests to you projects and tasks that you're late on. It'll remind you to log your time, looking at things that you're assigned. It's more the use case of the team member as well as the resource manager on folks on your team that need to log time, and prompting to you with the bot. You can have conversations and kind of get prompted on projects or people or tasks you need to log time on.
Thank you. Andrew?
And I'll kind of echo what the community has mentioned here. This is something we're actively exploring as well. It's really about how can we extract useful information and leverage that information in what we do on a day-to-day basis. So that's something that we're looking into in terms of how can we support our users in their model building? How can we support our users in developing assumptions for their models? So we actually have an ongoing partnership with an academic institution, Fraunhofer Chalmers, which is a research center for mathematics in Sweden, that we're partnering to kind of look into AI and machine learning and how we can tap into that.
Thank you, guys. We are up against the clock, so I want to take a minute to thank my speakers, Varsika Parekh, Phil Wolf, Angela, and Andrew Combs. Thank you so very much for taking time out of your busy schedules and sharing your insights and the strengths that your tools can bring to the different pharma companies, companies in general looking at tools to manage their portfolios and projects. So thank you very much. I also want to take a minute to thank Miro Hornak at Biosummits and his team for enabling this conversation. For the audience participating online, this is just a teaser to the World Summit PPM tour that is being organized by Biosummits. It's going to be a set of 10 conferences and 4 masterclasses organized in different regions and during different times of the year. So please go to Biosummit's website, explore this, and do participate. So thank you everyone for your time today. I really appreciate it. Goodbye for now.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye. Thanks.
Thanks.